Okay, welcome everybody. This is Meaningful Practices and Technical Assistance. I'm Diana. I'm going to be your guide today, and really, really grateful to be here. It's an honor, quite honestly. Class measure is so important and dear to my heart and my work, and just really, really glad to be a part of this journey. Also want to be, just want to sort of put a word out of thanks to our friends at Teachstone for bringing us here to Austin, Texas together and making this event possible, because this is this is the time where I get to network and meet you all. And I'm kind of a lone soldier in my area of the state. And so it's a really, really good opportunity. I just want to thank our friends for bringing us together. What we're going to talk about today, I'm going to show you a little bit about how class is working in my corner of North Carolina. I'm a small part of our work in our state, but I want to share with you how that's working. Going to tell you a little bit about my specialist team that actually does the frontline work with teachers in classrooms. And so I'll be talking with you and introducing those important people to you. I'm actually going to share with you an interview that I conducted not too far back and share that with you. Then, of course, the interactive part of the session is going to be, after the interview, I'm going to give you all some time to answer a couple of questions and just reflect and brainstorm and talk. So that will happen. And once we're finished, I will talk to you a little bit about MMCI, that project that we've been working in particular, sort of how we're using Teachstone products and technical assistance. We do formal processes with that as well as informal. And I'm going to give you some very quick and hard and fast tips that we've learned from the past 2 years of this adventure. And we are not done learning by any means, but want to share with you that. And then hopefully, if we've got some time, give you some time to think about what's happening in your communities and do some planning and talking and getting that time together. So that's my goal. It's 50 minutes, so I know it's lofty. Where's the 55? Anyway, we'll see how we go. Before I get started talking with you about North Carolina and sort of where I come from and how we're doing the work we're doing, I want to get a quick poll as to who's here today. Tell me, how many of you are actually thinking about class technical assistance or consultation? You're in the thinking about it stage. You haven't really committed yet? Great. So a couple of those. Okay, great. So hopefully we'll help you with sort of that journey that you've started. How many of you are in the just launch stage? So maybe you've been a year or 2 years, you've been doing consultation, you're still sort of in that excited but not quite sure what we're doing. Okay, good, I'm glad there are folks there. And so then there's this third stage, which is not 2 to 5 years of you're in the process, you've learned a ton, or you're still learning a ton. Is anyone in that? Okay, so most of you are like me, which is great. So that's our category. Is there anyone that's in a different category? Or is coming from this from a different lens? Okay, good. So hopefully with those three groups, I'll be able to reach you today in some important way. So I have to tell you, I am really, really proud of the fact that I'm from North Carolina. Like really super proud, like kind of annoying proud. And so not only because we have a really good basketball team there. Does anybody keep up with basketball? Okay, so yes, exactly. So yes, I'm a UNC Tar Heel fan. I was born in Chapel Hill, from North Carolina. So I'm really proud of not only our basketball team, but all the really, really great things that have happened over the years in North Carolina. I'm just going to list a few of them so that you can know what I'm talking about. One of those is the fact that we are sort of the home to the Teach Early Childhood Project. How many of you know that scholarship program and are working with it? A couple of you. Well, if you haven't, if you aren't, you should get to know this project. This is really about teacher education, about supporting teachers' education, but also through compensation and longevity, keeping those teachers in the classroom. We heard this morning, I hear throughout this conference, we cannot have effective interactions if we don't have consistency with our workforce. So projects like the TEACH program and like the wages supplement program, which helps teacher pay, those are all very important partners in our work. So we have to sort of be connected with that work. And those projects are born and raised in North Carolina. And then also Smart Start, which is our state initiative that really helped fund many, many very innovative projects in our state we're really grateful for. And then also, the Natural Learning Initiative is in North Carolina. How many of you have heard of the Natural Learning Initiative in your work? So Robin Moore and Nilda Costco, who are really taking on that outdoor learning experience for children in a very natural and fabulous way. So I am like a proud member of a very important community. And now I'm part of the class community, which is very special to me also. So let me tell you about North Carolina. Since 2000, we started our 5-star licensing system, which is now called TQRIS, right? So that's new, like abbreviation in my world. But since 2000, we sort of helped to move our entire early childhood system from a non-star system to a star system. And basically, we have almost 4,000 early childhood child care centers in our state. And of those, 69% are either 4 or 5 stars. So we have really worked hard in North Carolina, and that came from a lot of passion, hardworking people, and financing. So really glad to do that. Our components for quality are based on 2 basically general categories: teacher education and classroom environment. So teacher education meaning actual courses completed through college system, CE, not CE credit bearing, but college credit bearing coursework, and also using the environment rating scales, which is also a founding place of where Frank Porter Graham, which is home to North Carolina. We're very proud that the environment rating scales did come from our North Carolina research and faculty. But we do use the classroom environment, the early child environment rating scale for measurement. So those are the 2 big ones in terms of how we measure quality. So as you can see, class is not a part of us at this point in terms of our regulatory system. So that provides us a really great opportunity. And that's what we're sort of taking advantage of now. This is my village. These are my people that I work with. These are my family members. That, when you see people every day and you work with them, that's what they become. And so this is my team from Child Care Service Association, where I'm from, Technical Assistance Department. And there's 20 of us that do technical assistance work. And so there's a range of work that we do. We do NAYC accreditation technical assistance, early literacy technical assistance. With a 5-star license, helping teachers with education and their rating scales. That's a big part of what we do as well. So we have a lot of different initiatives happening. I can say that with my team, most of my team has at least 1 certification in class, and several of them have multiple. I'm going to tell you a little about class in just a minute, but I wanted to get you sort of a picture about, we do a lot of broad work, and this is a part of it. So foundation to our practice. We have requirements in our state for doing technical assistance, for doing consultation. This is a child care resource and referral requirement. So if you do work in an agency and you're doing TA, you have to meet these requirements. One is a minimum level 11 in early childhood education. And so what that means, and people don't really know what that is unless they live in North Carolina. It's basically a BA degree or with some coursework in early childhood education. So anybody that does technical assistance has to have that background. It's really important. Also, they must complete a course called Art of Technical Assistance, which is a really fantastic course. It's the framework for how we teach adults. It's the framework for how we engage in learning with adults, and sort of the very foundation of our work. So all of our TA specialists have completed that. We've also had to take a course, cultural competence. So a really important and fantastic course so that we are not only aware of the biases that may exist and how we help address those, but how important cultural competence is in early childhood environments. And so it's kind of both. Class observer certification, that's for our team that does class TA. So in order to do that, they must have observer certification. We do have other technical assistance professionals that have certification. For example, our NAYC specialist is also class observer certified. So that's sort of becoming a requirement within our team. We also have a course that I developed about a year ago because we have this challenge of, well, now that we know this measure, what do we do with it? And so we developed a CEU bearing course that helps our technical assistance practitioners figure out how to use class in their work. And it's based on feedback strategies that Teachstone has put out. It also is based on Art of TA. It's based on that sort of parallel process thinking and model of practice. And so that's sort of like a combo course is what that is. It's kind of a little bit of everything to sort of get TAs started using class and consultation. We use NAYC Code of Ethics as our guiding framework. So that's kind of our go-to place when we're struggling with questions or issues or things we observe or things we're talking about. This is my team of specialists, and I'm going to introduce them in just a minute, but I also want to sort of give recognition to the Teachstone team that's been an important part of our work. Curry Anders was my first pre-K class trainer, so she's always going to be that person that I have this heart connection with, right? You know that your first trainer that you just like have that heart connection with? She doesn't even really know me, I don't think.
Yes, she does.
She does? Okay. She may remember me. But anyway, and then Lisa Chris, who's here, right? You, Lisa, are you here? Yes. Lisa also has my heart place for toddler class. And Mary Margaret, is Mary Margaret here? Yes. Okay, so Mary Margaret is also my guru for pre-K and also infant class and it's Train the Trainer. And so I just, really have just a huge amount of respect and just those relationships are really important to me in my village, and so want to kind of make that there. Mamie Mara, who's not here, I know she couldn't be here, is my MMCI Buddha, as I called her this morning. So I rely on these people. Cedra is, when you can't get folks to listen to you, how many of you are dealing with that? You're trying to get folks to listen to you, but you just can't. She's been helping me tune my drum, so it sounds a little better. So that's what she is, a drum tuner, and anyway, so these are important connections. So here's my core team. I'm a part of it. There's 3 of us who are MMCI instructors, and then all of us are certified instructors, and most of us are trainers. So I want to tell you a little bit about my co-team members before I introduce you to them via the video. Candace Fuentes, who is not, she's the last person here, she's not going to be in she wasn't able to be in the video meeting. She had a sick child the day that we planned it. And she is such an important part of our team. She is our bilingual infant, toddler, pre-K observer trained specialist. She's always keeping us on check. She's the one that says, hey guys, this is not going to work for my population, okay? She is always, always reminding me about practices and how we need to think about them strategically and coaching strategically as we start planning and moving forward. She is an amazing person, and sorry you won't meet her today, but hopefully I'll bring these folks the next time we have a conference. So here are the 3 you're going to meet in just a minute. Shauna Daniels, who is on the far, I guess my right, is our newest technical assistant specialist. She's been on with us maybe less than 2 years, but she comes to us with an amazing amount of experience. She's working on her master's in adult ed at NC State. She's been a coach for many, many years before doing this, but still, she's new to our team. So her perspective's been really interesting. If I were to say, what is her gift in the dimension world? Behavior guidance and support for teachers is one of them. And just her ability to observe teachers and be responsive. Those are her strengths. And then Swanda, who is our seasoned and most senior level TA. She's also an MCI trainer, and she went through training with me in Chicago a few years ago. Is an amazing person also. She is like that bright spirit, that energy that comes into the room and you just feel better immediately, right? And so she's that fun teacher. If you think about your pre-K days like that or early childhood days, she was the teacher that was fun. Kids had fun with her, and adults have fun with her. And because of that, she's able to really get at hard issues and have hard discussions very quickly with teachers. That's an amazing gift that she has. Paula Brown, who's the 3rd technical assistant specialist, is also, she's been with us kind of 4 or 5 years. She has 20 years of experience as an NAYC accredited director. She's been a coach for teachers all of that time because that's what you do. And her strength is still also in that positive place of communication. She's always praising and giving support to teachers. when we're at a staff meeting, she's the first one to brag about what's going on in her classrooms with her teachers. She is that. She will nudge you with happiness. That's kind of how she goes about, interacting. So those are our specialists. I'm going to go ahead and share this video with you. It's going to be about a 20-minute video. What I want you to do is be thinking about these questions during the video. And then as we get to be prepared afterwards to share with your group in your tables what those might be. Think about when and how often you notice TA specialists using class language. That was really, when I did this video, I had no interview, I had no idea what to expect or what was going to happen. And my jaw was on the floor when it was over because I learned so much. And so I'm hoping you'll take away some good information today too. But notice how much they use class language just in their day-to-day talking. And then how did the TA specialist describe class consultation? And how is it different than traditional models? I think that's one of the things that has really brought about the best and most important change in our work. And then one of the things I asked at the end is, what advice would you give to new TA specialists that are using class? And they have some really good tips. So pay attention and take notes on that. And if something stood out to you in the video, make note of it. Be prepared to talk about it, because I'd love to hear what it was that you noticed. And I'll share just a couple of things that I've noticed as well. And that's it. So if you want to watch, it'll just be 20. This is a 40-minute interview, but we'll be doing 20 minutes. Okay, thank you for meeting with me today and talking with me. And I wanted to get a feel for how class has impacted your work as TA practitioners. And so I have just a couple questions I think everyone would love to hear some more information about. Tell us, how has the class measure helped to expand and build your skills as a TA practitioner? Can you think about examples and ways that it has made a difference? How has the lens changed your TA work, basically?
I'll start if you'd like.
Sure.
I think that for me, it's really built my sensitivity. As I've gone through the class measure and got more and more used to it, I really appreciate the scaffolding that's just embedded in the tool itself, and it's taught me a lot about being a more sensitive TA. And instead of regard for student perspectives, regard for the teacher's perspective. When we make these adjustments for where people are, and it's a great tool that allows us to meet them where they are and build from there. So even when I'm not using the class formally, I'm using it in the back of my head and providing TA to very different people every day. And so far, they really seem to be responding and getting a lot out of it. It's very individualized.
Yeah, it's like the idea of so as above, so below. So the things that we ask the teachers to do with the children, we do with the teachers in the TA that we're doing. So I like the idea of regard for teacher perspective as well as the children. Yeah.
So are you feel like that's something you're doing more of now, or you're focused more on?
Yeah. Well, and I'm new to TA, so being able to have not necessarily it's not very structured, not the structure that I'm looking for, but a format and something that I can come to them and say, this is what the best practice would be. So using a dimensions guide and talking through what it looks like in the classroom, and being able to say, this is what it would look like. How do you think that looks in your classroom? If we're talking about this, what does behavior management look like in your classroom? And does that kind of match what the dimensions guide is saying it should look like? And being proactive and using the positive wording when they're talking to the children. All of those things, they can, even if they're not watching videos, they can still hear a lot of what it looks like. And then when we go into the classroom, I can say, yeah, see, that was that positive, the proactivity that we were talking about. You saw that was going to happen, and you made sure that you had something in place to help that child.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Swanda, you've been doing technical assistance how many years? You're our more senior.
10 years.
10 years.
So
what's your perspective?
So when we had the opportunity to learn about class, it was like another new thing. So I can relate to teachers saying, oh, it's one more thing that we have to learn. But what I try to do is to infuse it into their everyday practice, so it's not like it's something new, but it's just a almost like the icing on the cake or sprinkles on the cake to what they do every day. And so I agree with these ladies, like in regards for teachers' perspective, we go in as the professional, but we want them to feel like professionals as well, so they can in turn spread that love and that joy and that positive climate in the classroom to the children, so that they can get all these other dimensions that we want that class perspective is shown in the classroom.
What's like your favorite dimension to see in the classroom? Like, what is it when you like it kind of lights you up when you go in and you see teachers engaging with children in a specific way? You know, in what ways?
I like all the dimensions, but the one that I think is the most important, which is the first dimension, is positive climate. Once you can get those children in your classroom and feel loved and welcome, and that this is their place, this is their learning ground, then they can blossom, because you're going to be able to infuse all the other dimensions in the classroom, and the child is going to be open to just flourish in the classroom. So if you have positive climate and you're in close proximity, you're listening to the children, you're getting their feedback, and they don't feel like they're being bullied in the classroom, then that child can progress, and you can progress with that child as well as the teacher.
Now, I tend to start with behavior management, because when I ask teachers what they think they need to work on, that's always where they think it is. So I start there to let them see what they're actually doing that matches it. It's amazing how many teachers think they have no skills in behavior management, and then once they start to see and we talk through what it really is, they realize that they're actually doing everything that should be getting done. Their weakness often is in the more engagement-based dimensions. So once they see that, then it builds their strength. They feel like they can do whatever else we're talking about, because they've got that thing they thought they couldn't do, and they're doing it well.
It's great to reinforce the good things that are already happening.
Yeah.
Just a lot of what you all do.
Absolutely. Scaffolding. I also like them all. Fortunate not to have to spend any time in negative climate. But I really, for me, I have had the privilege of working with a lot of particularly advanced teachers who have done a lot of reflection on their own work. Class is the first time I've had an opportunity to work with them with a tool that looks specifically at their intentional teaching and their teaching style. And like Swanda, I've also seen that people think, oh, I need behavior management. And, yeah, you got behavior management. It's not the same thing as well-behaved kids. You know, it really is about your management in the classroom. And positive climate. Without that, we've got nothing. We can't go anywhere. And it's really important for people to know how well they're doing in that. The first place I get super lit up is regard for student perspectives, because as teachers, we're often trained to provide those basic things. We learn a lot about relationships, and we learn a lot about behavior management and positive discipline, but very few times are we stopped to say, but what did they want? What is their wheelhouse? Look at the different learning styles of each one, respond to them individually. Super hard with a classroom of 20, and it's a real challenge. I think that's the first place they get challenged, but I get really excited seeing how quickly they pick up on that and get enthusiastic teaching about that. And then I have an indicator that's my pet favorite. I absolutely love prompting thought process, because I feel like that is something that has not been taught before to teachers. Yeah. Certainly not, even people I know who are doing elementary ed and people even in high school, there is a whole lot of emphasis in our society put on right and wrong, not about thinking. And if we can get them really early to start valuing their own thought process, what that means to have a thought process, then we're really giving them a gift that will last forever. And that was that's the first time I went, whoa, I never did that as a teacher. I needed to spend time on that. So it's really exciting for me.
I know one of your plans with the Child Care Center is to spend just in that behavior alone in 3 or 4 classrooms just with those teachers, which is a beautiful thing to do, and you can. That's the thing about classes. It allows you to get that deep. You can just spend time in that one behavior. You don't have to focus on the entire
It's true.
the entire measure.
You can organize it really any way you want to. If people feel like they need a broad perspective on class and how they can use it, that's great. We can do that. Or in this case, focusing on this one thing allowed us to take all of the people that teach that age group in one group, and we're going to do it individually and as a group, and they're going to share. They already have plans for sharing with the rest of their school successes and challenges and how they move forward with it. And it's just, everybody has, really taken a bite out of this and really excited about it.
So in our TA work, and specifically in class, it's a real strength-based model approach to technical assistance. We know that no other approach would work with teachers because it is so about interactions, which is very interpersonal. It really does require, for change to happen, it's going to require a positive approach. So tell me about how you're using that approach in your work, if you can think of an example.
Well, I'd definitely start with that, going in and meeting the teachers. Normally the first time they see me, they're not quite sure what exactly we're doing. And so I'll go in and I'll try to talk to them about the tool, but they really don't get it until we start talking. So the best way to get on their good side almost is to talk through those strengths that we see, and we may be doing a pre-assessment. So what kind of strengths do I see in the classroom just off the top? And then what do they believe their strengths are? Especially when we're looking at the dimensions, what do you think your strengths are? And going from there, again, taking in their perspective. So regarding that perspective, the whole process is based on us regarding their perspective and being able to meet them where they are and help them get to that next step. And seeing it as a good thing to get to the next step. Not that what they were doing was wrong, just that it's the spark, the sprinkles on the cake, or it's just that next level of great teaching that you can get to, and being able to use a lot of positive communication with them, and being even proactive, seeing that they're struggling in one area and going back to that and helping them get back to where they were. Yeah.
And I think you want their buy-in so that you can come back, and you want them to know that you're there for them. So when you find this thing that they can do well, you want to build upon it, and you want to shine that. You want to say, oh my gosh, you were doing that. Just like when you do with children, you see that they're doing something that you asked of them or that they grew to do, and it's like, oh my gosh, you did it. Yay, clap. Whatever that's going to make them feel empowered. That's what we want to do. We want them to be able to drive that car once we leave. We're the passenger, and they're the driver. We're not the GPS telling them what to do, but we are their passenger and they're the driver. And that's one thing that another TA taught us, like, you're the passenger. You don't take over the wheel. And if you can teach them how to fish, they can fish for days once you're gone. So I think that if we build upon what they have, then they can do it. They can do more of it and know that they're doing it properly.
And it's pretty cool too, because when you're looking at the dimensions, there's a little piece of all of them together. So if their strength really is in that behavior management, you can get to concept development and figure out how to connect the two in a way that really is organic, and it doesn't feel straight. You can say, remember how you did, and you can connect it back in. The way that you were taking care of that situation will help with this if you're really working. Like, there's a way to connect all of the dimensions together, which I think is one of the things that I learned just doing the trainings. But in practice, I found that connecting them makes that connection for them, and they don't see it as 10 different things that they have to do again. It's not a whole new thing. It's just doing what you're doing so much better.
It's very fluid. You can always go backwards, and you can always go forwards, and pick and pull. And I think that, we're all doing the same thing, and going in and finding a way to say, just like we do with children, you're already doing this. This is amazing what you're doing here. And finding ways that give them that specific feedback about why, how that's working, how it's affecting the children. And they do feel so empowered. That's the one comment that I've consistently gotten, no matter where they started. Every single teacher has said, you made me feel so much better about my teaching. And it's not really me, but it's this tool is there to show them how and why it matters. That's easy to scaffold when you have people that can feel good about themselves.
And also when they see those changes in the classroom, it's empowering for the teachers as well.
So in your past life, I know Shauna's new to TA, so her perspective is so important. And then Paula and Swanda have done TA in the past before class and did a lot of ECHRS-related TA because our state license is based on the ECHRS. It still is. Class is not a part of our regulatory system.
Right.
And so how is this different? When you think about your ECHRS TA and your class TA, and we integrate both, what are you, I think that's one of the things we hear from new TA practitioners, a little fearful of using class because they've sort of developed their own ritual. And this does really require you to get out of that box. How did you manage that?
Well, can I say something first, even though my experience? Yes. Because when I started, I actually started doing TA using that environmental rating scales. I wasn't doing class TA first because I hadn't done the trainings yet. So, and having had, as an administrator, having gone through rating scale TA, it's completely different. And I sometimes I go day to day. It's a full class day and then an environmental rating scale day with another group of people, and it is completely different. I started, actually, one of the things I remember from one of the observer trainings I did is to find the gems, where I find that environmental rating scale, you're finding the issues and the problems and the holes that are there. But with class, you're looking for those gems. And I remind myself all the time, I remind some of my other TAs, remember, we're looking for the gems when we're doing class-based work. You're always looking for that thing that they're doing well to grow off of it. And that was like the biggest thing that I think, that was the biggest lesson I had in all of the class and observer trainings and then also doing TA. And it really has carried through in all of the work that I'm doing with the different ages. And
so your approach is completely different with the measure.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What about you, Swanda?
I agree with Shauna. When I first started doing ECHRS and ITRS and SACRS and FICRS, it was looking at the materials, and it was like teaching to the test because we knew that they needed to get here, and we cared about how they arrived there, but it was more like, we need you to get here, and I was more the driver, and they were the passenger. Now it's flipped with classes like, I'm not in the class doing the interactions. It's all up to you, and I'm just going to give you the tools to do it. I'm going to add these tools to your belt so that you can do it. So classes look at the interaction and the language between the teacher and the children and the children and the children, but ECHRS looking at materials, and you really, if you are a skilled teacher, you really don't need materials to be effective in the classroom. Versus with ECHRS, you must have materials. Like, you have to have blocks, you have to have plans, you have to have all these different things. But with class, if you're talking and you're being intentional about your interactions, then you'll do well. If you make one change with class, you can change your child's life. You can change their perspective, their trajectory of life. So that's what I love about class, especially for centers and homes in North Carolina that have little materials. Like, oh, it's different work. Right. No excuse.
It values
relationship
building.
It values that place in quality we haven't really been measuring very well in our state.
Yeah, it's such a little part of the environmental rating.
Yeah, and it's 2 indicators.
Yeah, just little, and so they don't even focus on it because they're so busy washing hands and sanitizing tables. And,
well, it's a point game. How many points can we get to get the points we need? And that does those things do become a priority very often.
And it is punitive in nature. I think the rating scales are very much, teachers see it as they're always saying, where am I going to get dinged? Where am I going to get hit? And I also work with accreditation. So in accreditation, if you're going for NACE accreditation, it's more of a portfolio approach. So you're out there proving all of these great things you do. And that is in contrast sometimes to the rating scales. And it's up to me to help them sort out which one they're going to value and which one they're going to pursue the strongest. But it takes a lot of energy to do both of those things. So I hear them when they say one more thing. The beauty of the class is once they are introduced to it and actually understand what you're talking about, it's really not any extra pressure. It's only support. It's not, I'm here to tell you what to do. It's, I'm here to help you explore ways in which you want to get better, things that you need. It's not in conflict with either of those two things. It's just a wonderful way to support them.
It's cool to see their faces when I say, I'm not here to count how many times you wash your hands. I want to hear you talking while you're watching dance, but I don't want to necessarily count how many times you've done that or how many blocks you have or if your books are eaten up. I'm here to talk. I want to hear you reading the book. I want to hear you talking to the children. That I want to see that they're learning something and can give you thoughts about what you're talking about. Yeah.
And the cool thing about it, once you empower these teachers and they leave this site, or if they go and open up their own site, they have this knowledge. Knowledge is power. And sometimes teachers don't know that they don't know.
That's
and
right.
you have to come in to help them see that you are great, you are awesome. Before me, but I'm just here to make it more visible.
Well, in part because they have all of these different processes that only look at the things that they're lacking. And so there's constant conversations about what they're lacking as opposed to what they're doing well.
Yes.
Good. So this kind of leads to the next question, which is about if you're going to advise a new TA who's new to this, what might you say to them to prepare them for class TA? What advice would you give for a completely new TA to the class measure?
Definitely go to trainings and try to have a support system around you so that you can be well-rounded and you can bounce ideas off of each other. Because if I was in this class world or bubble by myself, it would be intimidating. Because at first, when we went through the training, it was like new words or new ways to look at interaction. Yes. We were all terrified when we had to take the test to be reliable. So we understand when you go through the other measures as well, but having support is definitely a plus for this new tool.
So this video is amazing. There's so much more to see, and so much information that these three women brought in this one instance. So wanted to share just a glimpse of it with you. Anything you noticed or want to ask about, I just want to make sure we're giving you all that you need today. So any observations? Yes?
One thing that just came up to me is the value of having people who are coaches having time in a peer group to share like they are sharing.
Exactly. I know we don't do it well enough. When we provided this opportunity, it was like, we need to have more of these. Good observation. That's, yeah. It does provide that system of support. In fact, if we went a little bit further into the clip, Swanda talks about that. Like having partners is really important as a coach. Having someone to bounce ideas off. Going through that class observer testing, they started that relationship when they did that. They had to talk. They talked it out with each other and worked through and gave ideas and supported each other. An essential part to doing this work. A little bit later in the video, they talk about the Eckers TA. How many of you are doing Eckers TA right now? Okay. And so one of the things that Eckers TA really kind of requires in our state in particular, it's an accountability system. You have to have so many points on the Eckers to get a certain star rating. And so there's a lot of punitive, sort of scary work that goes on for teachers on that. And it also is sort of a deficit model, which is how you're missing this, you're not doing this. This isn't happening, you're not going to get points. And so what class is offering for us, because it's not a part of our regulatory system, is we're getting to start just with the greatness that's already going on and then moving from there. If teaching is excellent, then we just further that excellence. We bring it to another level. Yes?
Maybe you said this. I'm just curious about a little bit about logistics. So your TA class specialists, do they have a certain length of time, or I'm just...
That's a great question. We are learning our model as we build it, like a lot of you, right? So we sort of, we have a couple of projects that are lending well to class supplement TA. One is through MMCI. We do an MMCI course, and those teachers get on-site support in addition to attending that course. And it's a year-long process. So they go through the course throughout the year, and then they get consultation with it. So that's been, and we've been based on need. It's based on a lot of individual qualities like classroom needs, teacher needs. We work in Head Start programs where we're competing with a lot of other initiatives and a lot of other specialists in the classroom. So we have to schedule those very specifically. But I'm learning that this is a multi-year process. This is not a 12 months and it's good kind of thing. You can do this for years, this level of consultation. It's not just a quick thing.
So we use both ERS and class in our state from Alaska. And the feedback that we get from teachers is that both scales are very punitive, and getting the scores from class or even, they tend to score even lower. So we have more of a problem with class, even more so than
It's
ERS.
interpersonal,
But we
yeah.
just started the MTP coaching, and that we're getting some positive feedback.
That's
for
an
that.
excellent
So
project
what
to-
we're thinking about doing with both scales is taking that score out and just using them as tools
Exactly.
for
Yeah,
quality improvement, and not so much as a score.
It's great to be teacher mindseted here, and I was just in a session where it said teachers are stressed, and they really are, and we want to keep them motivated, supported, and rather create a system
I
of
want to point out the positive things.
point out the positive. So that's our core. Our core system is based on positive in this consultation. We don't give scores to teachers, and that's part of the course that we talk through. Is that scoring is you have to be educated about a measure before you can understand what it means.
Exactly.
And so but yeah, starting with the strengths, and what we find is there's so many strengths out there that and here's the other part of it that we've learned, and Paula shares this a little bit in the video, is this is the first time teachers are talking about their actual teaching. They've been talking about curriculum, they've been talking about where their dramatic play looks like, they've been talking about, but this is the first time, this encounter maybe the first time they're actually talking about teaching. And so that can be hard and scary and wonderful all at the same time. And so having to be very sensitive and aware and be a part of that is important. Okay, I'm going to click back up because I want to give you some tips since you all are asking, and I may help you with that. Let's see, how do I get out of this? Any other observations from the video before I move on to the next, or things you want to talk about that came from the video? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. I'm sorry, we just don't have enough time, and that's, when you're planning something like this, it's always hard to know how time's going to go. So LMCI, I think, is one of the course. It is a course that we offer. This is our third cohort with MMCI. This is our group of teachers in this photograph. We have 15, but we had a couple of teachers having a hard time making it to classes because of substitute and coverage issues. But I love this quote. MMCI is important because there is so much to learn about children and how our behaviors as teachers can make a real difference in the classroom. When I read this quote in an evaluation as to how MMCI was helping them, I was like, we are doing this. They're noticing how their behavior is affecting children. They're becoming better observers. And that's a huge accomplishment, huge accomplishment. So we do some formal, like MMCI coursework, as well as some informal. We're using Dimensions guides as a place of understanding research. We do use the video library. We, through Teachstone, so we do use lots of different products, but we also really individualize sort of what teachers need and how and where. So here are the things we've learned. If I were to say, okay, here's what we've learned so far in the past couple of years, what would it be? The first is relationships matter. Now, I know that sounds cliche, right? Especially in a group of, like, the whole community of class people. Like, okay, we know that. Hello, can we just move on to the next one? But the reality is this is work. It is work to have relationships. It's not as easy as being a cheerleader in the background and showing up to visit. You have to really, work at that. In fact, I would say most of our energy is in that part. It's in that, because if you're expecting to change, help the teacher change, you have to do it in a place of safety, of trust, and a positive relationship where when you come in, it's going to feel good to me, not bad. And so again, that's why approaching this from a positive lens is going to be so much better than if not. You're going to fail right away, and if you lose that relationship opportunity, then it's over. You're done, right? You come in and say, yeah, you could have done that a little better. That's the end of it. The teacher remembers that, and she's got a lot, or he's got a lot going on. So I also think about that relationships matter, but you got to check in with them. Sometimes we feel like we've had good relationships, and we've learned that, I didn't really like when she came out and saw me and talked to me about that. And of course, I live in the South where communication is really hard anyway. You got to really, like, you think people are telling you the truth right there, but they're really not. So you're going to have to work at that. So I can't emphasize that enough. Learning and teaching is a parallel process. We are doing this along with our teachers. We're doing this together. We're learning about our own practices while they're learning about theirs. Concept development is one that we've got to start working on, and we are working on within our department. What concepts are we trying to help teachers take on, and how are we relaying those interactions? So we continue to work ourselves at our own practice, at our own craft. Intentional teaching begins with intentional support. You can't just be randomly dropping in. Dropping in consultation does not work at all with the class measure. Because it can be too vague. If it gets too vague, then it doesn't feel like it has purpose, and your change is not going to happen. So being intentional about what it is you're visiting for, what you're planning to work on, and making sure that teacher is guiding that process. And then integrating class resources with coaching. So the resources that are available, take advantage of them. Take advantage of these beautiful people that we have at our fingertips and at our phone calls. Be sure to do that, because we have to have a structure. We have to have a system, an effective system to make this happen. If you're on your own doing class consultation, it's a very, it can be a very intimidating process. So make sure that you're taking advantage of resources and support. There's a lot of coaching support resources now available with Teachstone, so take advantage of that. Okay, any questions? I want to stop and ask questions now about what we're doing in North Carolina to sort of, or help. And I was going to help you work through sort of the challenges you might be having. Any questions? Yes.
I'm curious, how many teachers do your specialists typically support? And do you think there's sort of a sweet spot in terms of building those relationships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the caseload question is still one in our field, in our technical assistant specialist area, that is so hard. And this requires very individualized consultation support. And we have basically found with the MMCI, this is what we've piloted. We're still learning, is this working for teachers? But it's basically at least once a month, if not more, visiting classrooms in addition to attending the course. And so there are periods when it's more intensive and periods where it's less intensive. Great question.
I was just going to add to that. I think it's nice when you try to get at all the different learning styles. So you've got some group time, and then you've also got that one-on-one time. Yes. So even if it is just once a month for the one-on-one, if they're getting some of the group experience. So what we find is when people do the group experiences, they really appreciate that. They like hearing from each other, but they miss that one-to-one, and they want to have that. So it's like, and then if they're getting the one-on-one coaching, they appreciate that, but they miss having the group. So if you can find ways to blend that, I think that you're getting at more of those learning styles. I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's a great way to support from both angles.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's helped our MCI instructors are able to come into class and give examples of things that specific teachers have done, which is really cool. So they're able to say, yesterday I noticed in group time, this happened, and so then that teacher lights up because she's in her peers, right? She's sitting there getting honored by her MCI instructor. So that's been it's added to the course, having that consultation as well. That's been a nice supplement to what's happening. But like I said, after a year, I think what I'm noticing now is about 2 years into support. We had a Head Start group where we did MMCI, not as much intensive on-site consultation, but the second year did a lot more on-site consultation. And the growth between pre-MMCI and post-consultation was amazing. I remember going into Code 1 classroom, I said, is this the same teacher that I saw 2 years ago? I couldn't believe the change that had happened. And it was gradual enough that she didn't even realize that she had made such drastic change. She did notice that her job was getting easier. So, and so that's what happens when you're more effective in the classroom. Yeah, it definitely does. Okay. Anything else that you're learning that you want to share? Some of you are just like me, the same situation. Okay. So what are the challenges that are making sure I'm okay on time? 10 minutes left? Okay, we can do this. Let's give 5 minutes at your table, because I really would like for you to meet each other at your tables and talk for a minute. What challenges exist in building teacher effectiveness in your community. We all have our challenges, right? Whether it's other important requirements or whatever those things are. Talk for a minute about what those challenges have been and where have there been opportunities? Where are there windows? Where are there places where you might be able to take advantage of implementing consultation? And then what are your next steps after today? So we're just gonna take 5 minutes. You can talk about any of those questions you want to, and then we'll get back 5 minutes afterwards. I'm going to join you all. Is that okay? You're so close. I know. All right, I've been asked to get a little louder, so I'm going to get a little louder. I know I'm interrupting great discussions right now. I can hear how incredible they are. I want this to be the beginning of these discussions and not the end. We've got to keep talking about these things. And I'm really looking forward to all the new friends that I'm making and meeting today. I have business cards. Please let me know. Let's get connected and stay connected. What were some of the challenges? I want to hear a couple of them. I know we don't have but a few minutes. Anyone a challenge?
Yeah. I'm going to share, but I want the people who talked about it to tell. But the question was about, do you share scores, and how does that go versus sharing ranges, or how do you focus? Since we have some California folks, Alabama, I didn't get here, Maryland, so we have some different perspectives on that, but maybe they can share.
Please share.
So yes, we do share in my agency the scores with staff. It's actually included in their performance evaluation. And that was a decision made at the agency level because we're a Head Start grantee. And you're potentially maintaining your grant is tied to the scores that are received in class because Head Start has taken that approach. At this point in time, we are not penalizing or being punitive with staff based on that score, but it is shared and that decision was made. If we ever went down that road, hopefully we won't as an agency, because that's not what it was designed for. Right. However, when a funding source bases their decision to continue giving you money, that is a reality that's out there more so than,
could be very intimidating for teachers. I was thinking about Louisiana and how they've rolled that amazing, huge project out and how that's working. But that's a really good point. Like, how do we preserve that individualized PD for teachers that they need when you're dealing with a system that's running that level of accountability? Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? And the scoring issue. Anyone else? Yes.
Well, we were just talking here, she's from Arkansas and Texas, and it's very challenging to work with teachers when in your state the level of getting into our field is so low. And I mean, what I found, and maybe this is going into opportunities, but trying to meet some of our teachers' mental health needs.
Yes.
I mean, some of their personal needs are so overwhelming. And it's like Maslow's. I just did a training on this. Maslow's. If they're not meeting their basic needs, they can't get up here to work with the kids. And we talk about the kids, but we're seeing that in our teachers as well.
When people ask me how they're preparing for a Head Start observation for class and they're nervous, what should they do? I'm like, well, make sure that you're in good health and you're in good wellness, because you cannot function in any environment without wellness and health. So you're right, that we have this whole, it's sort of helping us bring attention to the system issues we have in early childhood. The compensation issue, as I mentioned, the education problem, those are all present. And we cannot, until we help support those systems, we cannot be effective in the classrooms. We just can't. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Any other obstacles? And at my table, the lady from Alaska was saying, just even physically, right, you want to tell us a little bit about your...
So it's just difficult for us to get to programs, because when we go to programs, a lot of times there's only one child in the classroom to observe, or we have to fly into the village, and the plane that you fly in on is the same plane that you fly out on the next day, so we have to stay. So we really don't have a lot of time to build relationships, like someone else was saying, because some of our villages are so remote and our teachers are far away. And we do MTP coaching, and that's been effective, but there's a lot of technical issues with equipment, and do they have the right equipment, and is it going to work? And so there's a lot of barriers.
Okay, thank you for sharing all this. What about opportunities? Anybody come up with those, or did you not get that far, but you're still just trying to work through your concerns? Yeah, we're still working through our worries. Okay, great. So I hope you're thinking about your next steps after today. We good on 1 minute? Okay, after today, because I'm hoping to make connections with all of you, my colleagues that are doing this work. I feel like sometimes I'm in my own little silo in North Carolina, but then I look in a room like here and say, oh my gosh, so many people are just like me and doing the same work and dealing with the same challenges. So really glad to make that connection. So I do have my information here on this slide, but I also have business cards. I don't know that I may have brought enough, I don't know. I'm happy to share with you because I would like to keep our conversation going. I'm going to try, Emily's been trying to get me to get on Facebook, so I'm going to try to get on Facebook and make it sort of that accessible as well. Any last minute questions that you have? Or
will your slideshow be available?
Certainly, I can post that. I wanted to check in with all of you. I also, did I send around a list? I can't remember if I sent around. I don't think I did. If you'd like for me to get your information, I can get yours via list. But yes, I can post the slideshow as well, if that's helpful to you.
One other thing they can do is in the conference app, the Hoop app, you can comment to the actual presentation if you want Diana to reach back out. All your information is in there, each contact. So it'd be an easy way.
Let's keep it easy, and we'll use technology. That's good.
You can put your business card on there too.
Put my business card. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All right, good. Well, I'll go ahead and do that. I will step into the world of technology. I'll keep stepping in and take advantage of that. Thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful. Appreciate it. Have a good night.